Welcome to Craft School. In this video, we are going to continue on our roving felt projects, and we're going to make these little penguins. This is perfect for the beginner felter, and I'm going to show you some of my tips and tricks. So let's get started. For materials, you will need a pattern, a foam egg that is 2 by 2.5 inches, off-white roving felt, black roving felt, a teal, white, light gray, and black felt, and 2 little tiny beads for eyes. For tools, you'll need a felting pad, a felting needle, some fabric scissors, and a low temperature hot glue gun. Flatten the wider end of your egg by pushing it down onto the table, and this will create a base for the penguin to sit. I'm going to pull some of this roving felt off of my large piece and then start wrapping it around the egg. We figured out this trick of using these foam eggs and foam balls inside of our little animals because it actually uses a lot less roving felt. You can save on your materials, and it also moves the process along a lot faster, and you can felt things quicker and make more animals. So I have this loosely around my egg. I'm going to place it here on my block and then just start poking it in. And this takes a little bit of time, but I have to tell you, it's fun. It's actually really, what would I say, nurturing to the soul to sit here and poke a needle into a foam ball. There's something about it. So you'll just want to keep doing this. What you're doing is you're weaving the felt, the little felt pieces in and out of each other. So it becomes almost, this sort of slightly woven piece. You can move some of the felt around with your needle if you need to, if you see a blank spot, or you can also add more as you go. But you just kind of keep pressing into the foam ball until it becomes really quite smooth. And as I've said before, while you're doing this, keep your eyes on the needle, don't look away, which sometimes I look away. Don't do what I do, do what I say. One of the things when you're felting, you want to kind of get rid of any striping that happens with your felt. So if you see something that looks like this where there's an obvious stripe, you just kind of move the felt around and integrate it with the felt around it so that it doesn't have that definite stripy look. You can also cover that up by adding a little bit more felt on top and then just poking that into the felt underneath. So expect that this should take you a little bit of time, maybe 15 minutes to half an hour to get this to where you want it. What makes this needle special and what makes it work is that the very tip of it has all these little burrs. So when you push the needle into the wool, it sort of starts to weave. It weaves it in and out of each other, and that's what holds it in place. One of the things that you might want to keep in mind when you're using the foam ball inside of your little animals is it actually does wear out the needle a bit quicker. The savings that we have made on less roving wool, we actually, in the end, it works out better to buy more needles. And we found a really great source on Amazon where you could get them in bulk. We'll give you a link to that below. I find that I can usually use one needle for about 2 animals, maybe even 3 depending on how large it is. So it's not like you have to use more than 1 needle per project. So that took me about 10 minutes to get it to this point. And one thing that I'm noticing is I do have a lot of poke marks on my body of this. So what I'm going to do is sort of give it a little bit of a rub just to loosen up some of the top. And then I'll press it back in, but not quite as far. So now I'm placing my finger about a 1/2 inch towards the end, and that gives me a guide. And then I can very lightly make sure all the little pieces of fluff are tucked back in. So I think the body's done. I'll set that aside, and the next thing we'll want to do is make the head, and I'll pull some of this roving wool and then start to roll it into a ball. So this is how you would traditionally do felted projects, where the whole thing is solid. And since the head's not really large, it's a great place to practice. So I'm sort of rolling it into a ball, and then we'll place it right here on the mat and then start tucking it into each other. It's a little bit of a different feeling because you don't have the solid core. It will take a bit longer to shape it, and also you're going to be needling it right into the mat. So you'll have to pull it off every once in a while. The way I see it is I use my needle as a paintbrush, and I kind of drag some of the felt and then push it in, move it around with the needle point. As far as how much wool to use, that really depends. It depends on how compact you make your ball. So I would suggest, start with some, and you can always add more. It's easier to add more than take it away. So maybe start a little bit smaller, and then you can continue to add layers and layers to get it into the size you want. So now I'm at a point where the ball is fairly condensed. I do want to make it a little bit bigger, but I'm just going to rotate and make sure everything is smooth and even. So my focus right now is just making it shaped as smoothly as possible. I'm not worrying about any of these lines yet because I have one more layer to add on, and then that's where I will refine the texture. So at the end, I want this ball to be about 1.25 inches to fit. Right now it's a little small, you can see. It needs to be a little bit bigger, and I can see a lot of my dents from my needle that I'll cover up in the next layer. So I'll pull off some more. This stuff feels so good. It's fun to feel wool in this little bit more raw state. So I'm just adding some more. I'm gonna do it in pieces. So rather than wrapping it around and around, I'll just maybe do one little piece at a time. And again, I'm just going to lightly press it in this time. I don't wanna go as deep. So this is looking really good on the face. I'm going to pick one side of the ball that will be the face, because now we're going to add some black to make his personality and to kind of make it look more like a penguin. So I'm pulling over my black roving felt, and I don't need very much, just very little. This is where you can get creative because again, you're painting with this wool. So I'll start by creating this little piece around his nose. Now we're going to end it with a piece of felt. So I just need the shape that goes under the felt and then leaving a space for his eyes. So I've decided this is my face right here. And as I work on it, I'll get some of this fluff to be a bit flatter. So I'll place it, and then with my needle, I'll kind of bring it in and shape it. And right now I'm just going to make kind of a stripe from his nose up over his head. I'm not pressing my needle in very deep. I'm about 1/2 inch. So I've poked this kind of in a straight line, and I actually want it to be a bit rounder. So what I'll do to correct that is just use my needle and very gently sort of reshape it and pull it over. I'm pulling some of the white on top of it, and then I want this black to be a bit broader. Again, I'm just grabbing some of the pieces and kind of looping it around. I think felting, it does take a bit of patience, and I'm telling you though, it's when you finish a project, it's really rewarding. So I encourage you, if it's your first time, start with something simple. I think it can be something that you can fall in love with really easily. I've seen some felting projects by people who can create things that look real. I mean, they make little dogs and cats that look almost like a real dog and cat, and that's pretty amazing. Right now I'm still at the point where I love something a little bit simpler, but I really admire that kind of work. All right, I have this big tail here, and I'm just going to continue to wrap it around, kind of as a little comb over here, because we want to cover most of the head except for the circles around the eyes. And for now, I'm just going to keep this towards the back of his head because I'll want to work this way to create the circle around the eyes. To make the shape of the eye, I have some roving felt here, and I'll place it there in the center of the nose, and then I'll swirl it around, hold it, and then just use this to paint the line with the felt. And then we'll color this in later. I have this little piece here. I'll just flip it back and work it right into the layer below it. And again, just swirl it back around. So right now I'm holding my piece in my hands rather than keeping it down here on the felting mat. It's up to you. You can do it whatever level you feel comfortable with. You know, you want to be careful not to poke yourself, but I think the more you do it, the more comfortable you are. And then every once in a while, you'll still poke yourself. See how that's kind of went down inside of it? Just take the needle, press it back, and then work it in. Okay, you can see how the head has turned out. And it's actually kind of cute. So the next step is attaching the head to the body. And since I want it to have a little bit of a neck between, I'll grab some felt and kind of roll that around my finger. I'm making somewhat of a neck here for the bird. And I'll just lightly press that in because I'm just needing it to kind of save some space there. And then I'll press the head right on top. And what I'll want to do is weave all those pieces together. So I'm actually grabbing a little bit of the side of the head and pressing it all the way through the neck into the body. All right, I have finished putting the head on the body, and that's all the felting that we're going to do, and the rest we're going to add with actual felt. So I've cut all of my felt pieces according to the pattern. I have 4 pieces of wing, 2 in the soft gray and 2 in white, a black beak, and 2 gray feet. And then I've cut this little piece of teal. This will be the scarf around his neck. It's about 9.5 inches and about 3/8 inch wide. And that can vary. If you want to use a ribbon, you can use a ribbon as well, but I liked the felt. So what we need is a hot glue gun. And the first thing I'll do is go ahead and glue my pieces of wing together. Just add a little thin layer. You can also use craft glue for this if you want to. And then press those together. And then once it's pressed together, you'll want to trim it so that it matches up since the felt stretches a little bit. And then we'll do the same for this one, but make sure that you flip it over so it's the opposite side. We have a left and a right. So the wings I'm going to glue right on the sides of the penguin under his head, and you'll see this shape, it's sort of an S. You'll want the point moving forward at the top and then the thicker at the bottom going backwards. I just want a little bit of glue at the top and then place it evenly on one side and then the other. Next we'll glue the feet on, just a drop right there on the heel of each one. Place them together and then we'll pop them on like that. Then we have this little tiny beak, and what we'll want to do, you can see it's sort of a cone shape. We'll roll it like this and then very carefully put some glue in the center. This is hard because you don't want to get glue on the outside. So put the glue right in the center of the fattest part. Fold that over again and then press it onto the space right at the base of the black, like this. And then the eyes, and I'll place some glue right into the hole, just enough, and then drop that right into the center, and I'll press it in just a bit so that it doesn't stick out so far. And then the scarf. Okay, the one going past his neck in the front goes over and then back. That way it falls downward and then upward, otherwise it might hit his face. So this is a kind of a safe way to tie his scarf. And now you can decide how long you want them. I think I like a long scarf, and then I'll just put little tiny fringes at the tip of both of his scarf ends. There you go. So here you have 2 variations on your penguin. Oh wait, I forgot one step. Just click the button below and subscribe to the channel. Bye!